Bro, before we get into this, I need y'all to understand something. There was a man living right next door to this school. Every single day, hundreds of kids walked past his house on their way to class. They saw him, he saw them, and nobody had any idea what this man was actually capable of. Not until that rainy October morning when 4 sounds rang out and changed everything. And when the full truth finally came out about who this man really was and what he had been doing at his window to Halloween before, bro, the entire neighborhood, Deadass, could not sleep for weeks, no cap. Stick around, because this story gets so much darker before it gets anywhere close to okay.
The morning it happened had been gray and wet since before sunrise. That specific kind of October rain that does not come down hard but simply refuses to stop. A flat, persistent gray drizzle that turns everything the same dull color and makes the world feel smaller and closer than it actually is. It was the kind of morning that already felt wrong before anything wrong had actually happened. The middle school ran 2 separate lunch periods, younger grades first, older grades second, and it was during that first period that everything changed. The cafeteria was at its loudest, hundreds of students eating and talking and moving between tables, the specific roar of a school lunchroom that you stop hearing after the first week because it becomes as constant as background noise. Then, 4 sounds cut through it. Deep, concussive, felt in the chest more than heard with the ears. The kind of sounds that your body understands before your brain catches up. Half the cafeteria went silent instantly. The other half erupted. Students near the windows pressed toward them, trying to see outside. Students near the exits started moving toward them. The noise level went from controlled chaos to something much harder to categorize in about 4 seconds flat. Then, campus security came through the cafeteria doors, and the situation became immediately clear to everyone, regardless of age. Adults moving fast inside a school building is a universal language that every student understands instinctively. Something was wrong. Students still holding lunch trays were told to set them down where they stood. Students who had just paid for their food were pulled away from the counter mid-transaction. Everyone was directed toward the multi-purpose room in the East Wing with a speed and urgency that left no room for questions. The multi-purpose room was enormous, the kind of space that felt cavernous during assemblies when students were spread out through it. Now, with the entire student body packed inside, it felt like something else entirely. The back wall was floor-to-ceiling glass. Under ordinary circumstances, this was the feature that made the room feel open and connected to the campus outside, a long, transparent wall looking out over the athletic field and the residential street beyond the east fence. Right now, it felt like the most dangerous thing in the building. Staff moved along that glass wall immediately, pulling privacy curtains panel by panel from left to right, closing off the view from outside as methodically as possible, while security personnel took up positions at every exit. Students watched all of this happen, and the watching itself was its own kind of terrifying. Because the adults clearly knew something that the students did not, and the gap between those 2 states of knowledge was visible on every adult face in that room, that specific, careful blankness that people wear when they are actively trying to prevent panic in others. Nobody was telling anyone anything. One student decided to change that. He picked the adult who looked most approachable near the main doors and walked straight up to him and asked directly what was happening. When he came back to his friends, his face had changed. He said there was a man in the house directly across from the school's east fence. The man was being evicted. He had not accepted this development quietly. He had barricaded himself outside his own front door with what witnesses described as several weapons, and he was making explicit and detailed threats against the officers who had arrived to carry out the eviction order. He had been seen before the lockdown, walking slowly along the school's east fence line, watching the students on the athletic field through the chain link. Not passing by, not glancing over, watching, standing still and watching with a deliberateness that the officer who reported it described as deeply unsettling. The room processed this information in real time. Then the second piece of information arrived, passed from adult to student in a whisper that spread through the packed room in under 2 minutes. The man was a registered sex offender. The silence that followed that particular piece of information was a different quality of silence than the one before it. Students who had been standing near the glass wall before the curtains went up instinctively moved toward the center of the room. Parents would find out about all of this later through phone calls and official letters and the particular version of events that institutions produce when they need to communicate something frightening in the least frightening way possible. For now, the students waited. 1 hour. 2 complete class periods. The multi-purpose room had the specific suspended quality of a space where time has stopped working correctly, where 5 minutes stretches into something unrecognizable, and the normal rhythm of a school day has been completely suspended, and nobody knows when or how it will resume. Students talked quietly. Some sat on the floor. Some stood in groups near the center of the room, away from all walls and all windows and all exits. Outside, audible occasionally when the room went quiet enough, there were sirens. Not passing sirens, stationary ones, the kind that park somewhere and stay. After an hour, the situation outside was resolved in a way that was never fully explained to the student body. The curtains stayed closed, the security personnel stayed at the exits, but the quality of the adults' faces changed slightly, the careful blankness softening into something that was not quite relief, but was adjacent to it. Students were walked back to their classrooms in small escorted groups, not independently, in groups with adults at the front and back. The east-facing windows in every classroom they passed had their blinds closed. They stayed closed for the rest of the day. The full picture of what had been happening on that street only assembled itself over the days that followed, through conversations between students who lived in the neighborhood and fragments shared between families who knew each other. One student's account in particular changed the entire texture of the story. She lived on the same street as the man. She knew him by sight, the way you know anyone who lives near you, as a background presence, a face associated with a specific house, someone whose patterns you register without consciously tracking them. The previous Halloween, she had been looking out her bedroom window at the street below, watching the trick-or-treaters, enjoying the decorations, doing what people do on Halloween night when the neighborhood is lit up and full of movement. She had looked across at the man's house. His front window was dark. He was standing in it. And what she saw, clearly enough in the light from the street to describe in specific detail to anyone who asked, was something that she had told herself was a Halloween decoration, because the alternative explanation was something her brain was not prepared to accept on a normal Halloween night. He was cutting his own arm and using what was coming out of the cut to write on the inside of the window glass. The words he wrote were, "Don't come here or I'll kill you." She had convinced herself it was fake, theatrical, the kind of elaborate Halloween decoration that some people take too far. She had almost entirely stopped thinking about it by the time October became November. After the lockdown, she thought about nothing else for weeks, because now she understood that what she had seen that Halloween night was not a display. It was not theatrical. It was not for the holiday. It was exactly what it looked like. And every single morning between that Halloween and the October lockdown, every morning when students walked past that house on their way to school, every afternoon when they walked past it going home, doing homework, having dinner, going to sleep, and that window was right there the whole time. Bro, and that is the part of this story that I cannot shake no matter how many times I go over it, Not the lockdown, not the weapons, not even the 4 sounds that started everything that morning. It is the image of hundreds of kids walking past that house every single day, completely unaware of what was behind that window. Walking past it in the morning, walking past it in the afternoon, going home, doing homework, having dinner, going to sleep. And that window was right there the whole time. No cap, that thought right there is the one that gets me every single time. Those students were lucky. They were genuinely, completely, remarkably lucky, and most of them will never fully understand exactly how lucky they were. If you want to watch more horror stories, scary true stories, revenge stories, then subscribe now to American Sleep Tales channel, please.
Bruh, if this story had you dead-ass sitting in the dark, too scared to move, then you already know exactly what American Sleep Tales is about. This is the only channel where you get all of it. True horror stories that'll make you sleep with the lights on. Revenge stories so satisfying you will replay them twice. Creepy stories that'll have you questioning everyone around you. Halloween stories that hit different every single October. Christmas stories that will dead-ass ruin your holiday in the best possible way. And bedtime sleep stories for when you actually want to drift off, if you even can after watching our other content. No cap, bruh, this channel has something that will get under your skin no matter what mood you are in. New story dropping every single day. Every single day. So hit that red subscribe button right now. Smash that bell so you never miss a single story. Because trust me, bruh, you do not want to be the one who missed what we dropping next. American Sleep Tales. Sleep tight, if you can.